Good evening, friends. My speech today is called Happiness. Do you know that happiness is not only in our minds, but also in our body, in our system? Do you know that it's not what we create in our head makes us happy, but actually the chemicals which we've got in our body makes us happy? So I'd like you to talk today about hormones and how they can make us happy. We've got the ability to produce hormones, and that's a great thing. And some of the hormones are responsible for our well-being and our happiness. And today I'd like to mention just 3 of them. It's endorphins, serotonins, and dopamine. So endorphins. Endorphin is a very interesting hormone. It is responsible for our happiness, as I said before. And in the old days, when we used to live in caves, the endorphins let us run away from our natural predators without feeling pain. And for example, nowadays, I'm sure every one of us experienced, like when we were exercising, we had blisters, but you couldn't feel it when you were exercising, just afterwards. So the natural way to trigger production of endorphins is exercise. High intensity exercise makes produce the endorphins, and that's what makes us feel better. And another way to produce the hormone is, that's an interesting one, eat spicy food. Would you believe? If you eat spicy food, the sensors on our tongue is sending signals to our brain, and the signals are very similar to pain signals, and then the endorphins are triggered. So here we go, now we know how to produce endorphins. Another hormone, the second one, is serotonin. Serotonin is responsible for our well-being, and when we produce serotonin, we are happy, we are friendly, we are decisive, and also other people can really influence us. And when we don't have that hormone, when we're lacking of it, we can be very irritable, or we can even go into depression. So to produce that hormone naturally, how to trigger it, we need to think positively. If we think positive, if we think in a good way about our life, then the hormone is produced. Another way of producing this hormone is low-intensity physical activities. So again, if you exercise, the hormone is produced and you feel happy. Another way of triggering this hormone in our body is thinking positive, exercise. I forgot that one. Oh, that's obvious one. Exposing ourselves to sunlight. We produce vitamin D, and the vitamin D lets us produce the serotonin. So another hormone, the last one which I'd like to discuss today, is dopamine. Dopamine is actually a very tricky one, different one than the 2 previous ones. And this hormone actually stimulates us to achieve and to reach for our goals. I'm sure that you experienced it when you finished your project, or you tidied your drawer, or you washed your car, and that was your little task which you set up, you planned to do it, you finished it, you feel kind of, yes, I did it, that's done, that's ticked off. So because we feel so good, that's why the hormones kicked in. So to produce the hormones, to naturally produce it, we can set up goals, but the goals need to be achievable and measurable. So in terms of to actually measure it when the goal is achieved, and then we actually may say, yes, that's finished, the task is finished, I'm happy. And another way to produce the hormones in our body is again physical activity. So the physical activity kicks this hormone in all together with serotonin. So basically these two hormones are produced when we exercise. So now you know how to produce naturally all the happy hormones, and hopefully we all will be now everyday happy. But please bear in mind and remember that all the three hormones are produced when we actually do physical activity. And I think I'm not the first one to say that physical activity is good for us. Everyone knows about it, but we kind of struggle somehow still with it. So some people are good at exercising, some not. So I wish myself and all of you that we'll be happy many, many times. Thank you. Do I stay in the middle?
Tony's going to... Yeah.
No, thank you.
Do I give my evaluation now? I've actually forgotten.
Sorry?
Do I give my evaluation now? Or?
No, you're leading a group
I thought
evaluation.
so. So who would like to comment on... Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Okay, it was lovely and great that you're wearing yellow and it's happy, deliberately. Yes. Again, it's a great thing to do the three things, and it's easy for me to be able to know that I've got something I'm going to be able to see an edge around, so I can anticipate what's coming in that way. Some of the stuff that I really, really liked was I loved happy hormones. I thought that was a really great phrase. Something else that I know you've worked on is your hands. You're doing much more open hand movement this time, so that you've moved on from when you were thinking you didn't. I loved the subject and would encourage you to step away from your notes. You were checking out where they were, but I thought it was a really great thing. You really did it well in terms of thinking, I've forgotten something, hang on a minute, and finding it, and then just working your way through that. You didn't fall, you just picked it up and carried on. So yeah, I thought that was a really good way of capturing that. Thank you.
Anyone come? Stella?
Yeah, what I noticed that I enjoyed the most, I can see that you are much more comfortable, and I saw actually smiling, I saw that you were smiling much more. The first time, I mentioned, actually I evaluated that time, I mentioned that you were speaking all the time like this. This time you were using a lot of your hands, like three things I'm going to speak. It's the first one, and then this caught my attention because I would say three, and you were like, three, this is the one, this is the two, this is the three. And then other things that I noticed that when you got nervous, you closed them a bit here, but you still keep them open. But then at the end, I could see that you were much more comfortable with yourself and you were confident, you were smiling much more, and you actually separate them from your body, and it's when it becomes, like it even made me smile just by looking at you. I could really connect with you, and I think that last bit makes a massive difference. Like I think it was all great, but the last bit when you actually let yourself go, I think that was amazing.
Thank you, Stella.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Honestly, I think the content was really interesting. I really like the delivery, and as Stella mentioned, you smile a lot at the end of the speech, which I think is great because we're talking about happiness, like great outfits, sun, so like everything matches the message, is the way you deliver. But also, I think it was really interesting when you talk about the spicy food. That's like an unexpected part of the speech. Like, I was thinking, how is that connected? Like, if for some reason you are disconnected from the theory of the hormones of or anything like that, then you connect with simple things like exercise or food. And yeah, I think it was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any recommendations or not?
Maybe smile more, just at the end. I don't know if it was that you were nervous at the beginning, and then you Start to smile. Yeah.
My fourth speech, but I'm so trying it, I have to admit, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, about smile I remember. Yeah.
Mona.
Thank you.
You were like a sunburst there. and he said, happy hormones, and I love the alliteration as well, you know, the woman with you there. That was really, really good. And like Stella and echo what the others have said, I expected you'd go like that, but you went like 1, 2, 3. And I was thinking, how did you do that with the fingers? Because I can't do it. But, you know,
But we were at school,
yes.
my daughter, she shows that.
Yeah, so, but it was lovely because we could sit, that there was immediacy about it, and we were connecting with you, even though we knew you had, you know, you were going to go through the 3 points, and I felt you really did that well in showing how we could also show, have some responsibility for doing it naturally, but making it through choices. And I liked that I think you could have just rolled on, even though at that point you were sort of saying, oh, you know, and you said, oh, it's straightforward, and I think you probably would have, if you had rolled on with a few little descriptions or something, it would have triggered, and you wouldn't need to. So maybe, you know, you had the massive from that you were opening out more visually, you were making contact, you were looking a little bit in the middle, but you were going sideways on. My only other thing would be that you could possibly walk a little like that, then, you know, you were trying to go sort of maybe a little of that, but that was marvellous, really, and a wonderful topic. Got me very interested in it as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Does anyone else got anything you'd like to share?
Well, it's very hard to add to what's been said. I think you were very natural. It was spoke loudly enough for all of us to hear. What you might have been able to have improved on was a few illustrations. And in my own case, when I go out for a walk and the endorphins start, it's not just the exercise, it's the surroundings and the ambience and the wind blowing in your face and all the outside effects. And something like that would help to explain why you get this endorphins and the happy chemicals in the brain, I think we call them. So yes, it was a wonderful speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy?
Great structure. Again, sort of easy to follow. Very interesting. Obviously well researched. And I suspect as you get sort of more relaxed out there, your hand movements will move more. There were a couple of times when you were like this.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, as you relax more, you will move them around more. And certainly you can see the improvement week in, week out. One suggestion could be that you could use questions to your audience. So you could actually say, like, what sort of food do you think will actually increase the endorphins? Yeah? Again, that just builds a bit more engagement with the audience. And at the beginning, you actually said, good evening, friends. And you didn't, everybody was about to say something. Yeah.
All right.
And you just carried straight on. So if you left a little bit of a pause there, you'd have got a response and you'd have got instant buy-in from the audience. But really good.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Any more?
No buses.
The feedback I'd like to give would be that I'm going to be harsh, if that's okay.
No, yeah.
Because when you started, you kind of walked out quite kind of little, if that makes sense. You kind of walked out almost kind of apologetically, and then you turned, and then I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think that your speech starts as you leave your chair, if that makes sense, because you can kind of command the room from literally getting up, and also the same at the end. You kind of finished, and you kind of shrunk again. You did great. You know, the speech was wonderful, but the before and after, I know it sounds crazy, but I think that kind of sets how you're going to be received or maybe received. And the other thing, I'm going to start with two kind of things that I kind of recommendations, and then talk about speech, if that's okay. The other thing you said, and I'm kind of, you know, physically paraphrasing, but you kind of stood like that with your hands like that, and you said, "I want to talk about happiness."
Yeah, no.
Wow.
I mean,
Saw that.
I hope I'm not being too. This is. It just not reads out. You know what I mean. So I think that there could have been a better start, because from there you did then, as Stella mentioned, you know, your elbows came away, your gesticulating and kind of more natural movements, but your starting position was kind of like this, and a little bit kind of, I want to talk about happiness, and I'm thinking, you're not very happy. But with all respect to Tony, which I've got a lot, I'm not ignoring him, but if he starts messing with the camera or doing something, if you're starting, then start, own it. Just own it, because for the middle section, for the kind of body of the speech, you did. The only other recommendation would be, you know the stuff. You know the stuff, and that was more what do you call it, the notes here, to me just looked more like a crutch. It was kind of they're there if I need them. You could have had 4 or 5 or 6 bullet points. I think you had 2 or 2.5 pages. I tried glancing, but I think you had a lot. The stuff that I loved, once you got into your speech, I thought the structure was really, really good. It did achieve its purpose. I thought the topic was great. Your knowledge about the subject, again, really, really thorough. And as I think it was Jeremy said, you've obviously done some research around it and know what you're talking about. I'd still like to see kind of bigger movements, maybe physically moving around or doing just more kind of more free, whatever that means. But all in all, I thought it was a great speech.
Thank you.
Well done, Lee. And a massive improvement from what I've seen before. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a quick one, please. Sorry, Kate, because when I finished the formal housekeeping, I didn't own the camera. So when she came out, I just told her to wait a minute before. So that was why she was a little bit unhappy to talk about happiness. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. It won't happen again, I promise. Please, guys, I just want to beg us. Can we, in a very little way, you know we have a lot of content to cover. We have got about 10 speakers here. And can we make our evaluations a little bit precise, if we can? Thank you. And we want to call on the second speaker this evening, Sophie. Yay, that's nice. Hello again. So, just like you said, advanced communication manual. I've got lots of topic here for you to talk about, starting from my sister's wedding, friends, dog ownership, childcare, stroke my job, and Apollo 13 movie and mission. So, if I'm to choose, I'll say talk about in 7 to 8 minutes, childcare stroke my job.
Well, the title's sort of given it away, because childcare is my job. I don't know if anyone else had that feeling that they're born to do something. For me, couldn't be more true. I feel, might sound strange, but I was born to look after children. Now, I'm not a mother myself, so I can't pretend to be an expert from that point of view. But when it comes to looking after children, I hope I know a fair amount. Tomorrow, I take my maths GCSE for the 3rd time in order to get onto a level 3 childcare course, hopefully next year. I'm going off the trail a little bit, but it's ridiculous how, in my opinion, how you have a GCSE in maths to do childcare, but that's a whole other story. But as a determined person as I am, I'm going to go into the exam hall tomorrow and think, yes, I'm going to get my GCSE. I used to feel embarrassed about having to get this exam, but it's gone beyond that. But getting back to childcare, I love children. Yes, they can be annoying. When you have 16 children all saying Sophie at the same time, it can be quite challenging. I am one of those people that I get quite overwhelmed by lots of noise and a lot of confusion and everything's going on around me. So you might wonder why I went into this career. When I was 14, I'm sure everybody has the same experience. I was at school and I had to do work experience. I went to a local nursery, and it was a complete and utter disaster. For a start, they actually sent me to the wrong nursery, so that wasn't my fault. I didn't actually realise until I got back to school. They had me washing up, hoovering, everything I think imaginable apart from actually interacting with the children. When I did interact with the children, I was told I couldn't give this one particular child attention, preferential treatment. So years went by and I sort of forgot all about childcare. I actually started at Bournemouth Hall College 16, 17 years ago on the chef's course. That didn't work out. For a start, I didn't like my tutor. He was very grumpy on a Monday morning. So that went by the by. I then went on to do business studies. I've actually got the equivalent to 2 business studies, business A-level. Oh, sorry, I've got an equivalent to 2 A-levels, but I'm not going to get on my high horse and talk about the GCSE. Not that I'm angry or anything about it. Anyway, so childcare was still not in my head. I love children, but never really thought that I was going to pursue. I went to Australia 5 years ago, started off running a bed and breakfast. And then we sold a business and I was at a complete loss as what to do. As fate would have it, I applied for something and wasn't allowed it. So I was in a bit of a state, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't have any money coming in. In Australia, they have a pathway to employment. And as it goes, I was allowed to do a childcare course, and I thought, to be honest, I confess, I only did it to get the government off my back. It was a way to get a little bit of money and train for something. And I suddenly loved learning about children. I love learning about their development, I just love learning about children. And I went and did work experience, which was a bit more successful. And then, by some miracle, I managed to get a job in an after-school club. I arrived at the interview in Australia, this was. I never thought it rained in Australia until I saw an episode in Ages years ago. I don't know why I don't think it rains in Australia, but it does in Melbourne. And yes, so I went for my interview, hair soaking wet, I looked completely, no makeup on, I looked completely dreadful. Had a list of interview questions, looked at them, and I got a message on my answer phone saying, can you phone me back? Phone him back. Sophie, you've got the job. I think my exact words were, oh my God, really? I was so astonished that I managed to get a job. And I loved working in the after-school club. And then I managed to get a job in the actual childcare centre. And at first it was a rocky start. Changing nappies, no one's favourite game really. But I had a little Spanish boy, and I think the word for poo in Spanish is caca. And I was interacting with this little boy, and I said, no caca. And he sort of smiled at me and giggled. And something just, even changing nappies, all the hard work that goes into looking after children, I thrive on it. I get quite cross when I see maybe my co-workers at school not quite doing it as I do, but everybody is different. But for me, childcare is ultimately, I want the best for that child. I love watching them play, and you sort of see the girls all talking and sorting out their problems. They're sort of having tea parties and they'll work through their problems. What does the boys do? I'm not being sexist, but boys actually do just fall down in a heap and start fighting each other. So I've witnessed it with my own eyes. They don't talk to each other. Little boys, 3 or 4 years old, they don't talk to each other. They will just go in and get a piece of Duplo. That boy could have a red Duplo brick, this boy could have a Duplo brick. But this boy will want his Duplo brick. I call it the Lego effect. I don't know why it's like that, but it is. I do like Duplo, but I tapped my brother once in the airing cupboard with a big Lego box. Because he saw my Duplo, and he had Lego, I had Duplo, but I thought it was very unfair. That's another story from my childhood. But what I'm trying to say is that even when I'm out and about and I see children, I sort of don't ever switch that part of my brain off of being a childcare worker. I think, oh, I should really, interfere. And I think, no, I'm not going to interfere. Even when there's a child walking along the windowsill in Coffee One in Winton, and there's the window open, and you think, oh shoot, he's going to get his fingers trapped. But I can't interfere because I might have to get arrested or be told to sod off or something like that. So it's very difficult sometimes when I want to help and control the situation, and sometimes if a child is crying and I can't tell them to be quiet, that does drive me mad. And I've often been out and about and I've had, "Hey, Miss Potley, oh, it's Sophie." I often meet children from my school out and about, which is very weird. The shoe is on the other foot, because when I was 10, very quickly planning my time's nearly up, I was in Beale's department store when it was good, Beale's, and I was in the car department. And on a very sudden, I had a Fox's Mint. Do you remember the Fox's Mint? I had a Fox's Mint in my mouth, and all of a sudden I had heard this voice saying, "Hello, Sophia." I turned around, it was my headmistress. Now, the school I swallowed the mint whole, and I haven't had a Fox's Mint since. Now, for me, meeting my headmistress after school was truly the most awful thing in my life. It was a Saturday, for goodness sake. I mean, I went to school on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, didn't I? That was enough. I didn't want to see the silly old bat. Sorry, she was just the most, she was very domineering. She had really short hair. She was just nightmare. My sister, who was about 5 at the time, said, "Sophia!" in the most shrieky, because nobody ever calls me Sophia apart from my ex-headmistress and my dad when he was pulling my leg. and a few other members of my family. So that was that. But when the children meet me, they seem to just come towards me and want to sort of say hello, and then they sort of then go all shy. And it's like, yeah, I know what you're feeling. I've been in your shoes, so sort of more or less not get over it. But it's all right. I do have a life outside of school, you know. So all in all, I absolutely love my job. I'm still currently volunteering at the school that I work in the kindergarten, although I do have paid work as well. But I wouldn't get up at 6:30 in the morning, go in an hour and a half on a bus all the way to court if I didn't love my job. So I'm one of the very lucky people who actually do love their job. Thank you.
Can we call on Mona, please, for the high evaluation?
That was, your passion came across. Can I extend comments in the room? So who's going to go first? Shall I start with you, Sue?
Oh, okay, thank you. Thanks, Sophie. Yes, it definitely did. Your passion did definitely come across, and how much you enjoy what you do, and how involved you are in what you do. And I really love the way you go off on tangents and then bring yourself back. I think it's a great thing. And in doing so, it plays into the fact that you stand up there and you've got a great pace and you breathe well, and you come over as really relaxed in what you're doing. And you talk in huge effect about how children thrive and how that's what you want people to do. And I love the Lego effect. I thought that was marvellous. You made me smile with the person that was grumpy. One of the something to consider is you said you may find this strange. You may think this sounds strange. You don't need to tell me.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you were definitely born to do that.
Thank you.
Shall I? Jamala was.
I think it was great. Definitely, I can. No, like the main idea came across, and also you gave like a couple of examples from your own life, like not just why you love the job, but you kind of inviting us to Australia and all this journey and to the point where you are now doing this job. At some point I was thinking that I was not sure if you were looking at the camera or maybe our lovely camera guy. I don't know, maybe you were just focused on Tony. So I was like, it's because you were not looking at this side of the room, so maybe the camera or distracting guys. But apart from that, it was great. Yeah, it was really good, and you smiled more, and it was really good. Thank you.
Can I be quiet?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Something that I love today is the fact that you weren't worried about what we thought. And the reason is because sometimes, before, many times, I was getting involved into your story, and then you say, well, I like this, and if you don't like, I don't care. And at that point, and it happened like sometimes, and at that point I felt, well, if you don't care about me, I don't care about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes you say, this is another story, and that's all right. But sometimes, before, you said, I won't tell you about that. So I was, well, if you're going to mention, but you are not going to tell me, you know, it felt like you were pushing me away,
Yes.
and you didn't do that today, and I loved it. And today I connect with you, and I felt involved, and I felt like, oh, she's really coming across, and I can get to know her, and I can see that she loved that. So I think you are great when you speak, and it's much better when you allow yourself to be yourself without worrying what we think, you know?
Everyone else?
Yeah, I think because Sophie, you are quite advanced speaker now, so so good speech, good. Actually, you told us a good story about your life, but in terms of advice, and it's advice for myself as well. We may use hand gesture, and it's okay, but it's different when we pull the elbows out of the body, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah.
So, because quite often in the beginning you started like that actually, then something like this, but if you take the elbow away from your body, that would be better.
Okay.
And maybe also find a little bit maybe more positive things in the story, because they are there, you are talking about them,
Yes.
but maybe focus more on the positive stuff instead of, you know. Apart from that, I love it. Yeah.
My feedback would be the last, I don't know how long the speech was, it did run over, so I think one thing to be mindful would be all the time.
Yeah.
But for me, if it was, I don't know, maybe an 8-minute speech, the last 5 minutes I thought was fantastic. First 3 minutes less so, and the reason I'm saying that, I hope it's not too harsh, but we're here to learn. So the reason I'm saying that is, you were in this position, you were like this for probably 2 or 3 minutes, your hands didn't move. You know, the story was still there, but it was like listening to the radio as opposed to watching a movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but the second that you kind of did this, and then started gesticulating and moving around, and it suddenly kind of got like a three-dimensional aspect that wasn't there for the first 2 or 3 minutes. Overall, I thought it was great. Loved it. And can I just say, I love the fact, I don't know if this is part of the criteria for the level of speech you were doing, but I love the fact you had 5 titles, and just to literally go from there, I thought it was really, really commendable. So yeah, well done, you.
Can I say anything?
Yes, yes,
Okay. Advanced speech off the cuff. I thought that was quite fantastic. There was a structure to it. In the beginning, we heard that Sophie had purpose. She was born to look after children. And she finished saying how much she loved children. So we had an introduction and a conclusion. And she also told us a little bit about the GCSE, and I think there was a little bit about how you've done A-levels, but you've got to do this GCSE, so I think you were feeling your way around. Now you're doing it off the cuff, so we're talking and we're thinking at the same time, but you still delivered content. And then we got into your, you have things like determined and positive, which you had in the speech. She also said about, they can be annoying sometimes, 16 children sing Sophie, so you got an impression of that, and noise and confusion. Then she went on to tell us about her career, and how she kind of thought about it, but then she went on these various pursuits that she was doing, like Bournemouth College and business studies. Australia came up. And she was talking about the rain and how, you know, she'd gone drenched for an interview. And she did say, she says, you know, astonished when she got the job offer and managed. And she talks about childcare, and she gives us an impression about the nappies and a little bit about the Spanish term for what I'd say the soiling is. Hard work, but she thrived on it. So you get an impression of Sophie as well, the cuff with the job. And then she did this bit about watching them play and a juxtaposition about that then boys fight and girls talk, but then the Lego and the Duplo, and then you flip it to your own childhood experience. So you had a little bit of play there, and then again calling her Sophie, the children saying, oh hello, you know, and you remembering that happening to you when you were a kid. So she turned that around as well. And then we have this lovely bit about her describing the silly old bat. She swallows the mint, you know. So that humorous. So I thought that was a very, very well organised speech, given that it was off the cuff. And
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we've done 2 speeches. It's 10 to 8 now.
was that me? Sorry.
That's all right. No, I mean, we're just going to have to be a bit careful, a bit closer and more precise in our evaluations.
Okay.
You know, 2 stars and a wish, really. I think we need to stick to.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're not going to get through everybody.
Introducing our next speaker is Sue.
So thank you. I shall put it down there for now. Hello. So today my speech is titled, Do You Get the Picture? So I want to talk to you today about a picture. We use language often to describe how we think. We use the same language to describe how we think. Have you all heard the phrase or used the phrase, do you get the picture? Or do you understand what I'm talking about? Do you understand the big picture? You kind of get that. I think we've heard a couple of really excellent examples, and I love the way Peter described something he'd heard from Kate, which gave me a real sense of a picture with the wind in the face and going out for a walk. So that was a really great way in my head of creating a picture. So I want to talk about that today, and I want to talk about perhaps 2 ends of a scale, so big picture and fine detail, so big picture and little picture. And so I decided, because I really love the fact that people have been bringing props, so I thought today is an opportunity for me to do that, and it tells you something else about me too. So this is quite clearly big, but it's not, I'm not actually talking about the size when I'm looking at this. I want you to look at this and you see, it's a big piece of material. I got this when I went to Peru. I went to Peru on holiday many years ago, and we went to Cusco and Machu Picchu, and I picked this up there. And I've always maintained that this is a picture of me in there, ironing. There's an ironing board in there somewhere as well. But Judd is hiding up in the tower. I think he's going to shoot someone. Anyway, so it's a big picture. In communicating with people, when you talk about pictures, when I talk about pictures, I'm going to tell you the time when I had a conversation with my partner, Judd, and we were sitting in the kitchen talking about what we wanted to do, and how we'd like to do something different to what we were doing. And I can't remember at the time what jobs we were in. We were probably both working for the local authority, which gives you an understanding of why we wanted to do something different. And we had this conversation. I thought, you know, Judd loves to surf. I love the seaside. Maybe what we could do is go, we could get a campsite. We could get a campsite, wouldn't that be great? If we had a campsite, we could have it somewhere on a beach or very near a beach, and Judd could go around of a morning on his little 4-quad bike picking up money, and I could work in a big barn creating breakfast for people, and people would be having a great time because that's what they were there for. They were here to have a great time. So we were talking about this, and wouldn't that be great? Shall we do that? And he said, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. So I walked away from that conversation thinking, excellent. We're going to get a campsite. We're going to go and move. We're going to move somewhere, and this is what's going to happen. 2 weeks later, I said to Judd, so, what do you think? What have you done? Have you done anything yet about us going off somewhere? Have you looked into whether or not there's a lot of conditions you need to apply to be able to do that? Is there something specific we need to do? Do you know how much this stuff costs? And he went, what are you talking about? I said, we talked about getting a campsite. He said, we talked about the campsite being a nice idea. I didn't know we were actually going to go and do it. I said, well, I've just painted this huge picture, and that's me, I'm off, I'm doing it, I'm going for it. And Johnny's like, no, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and what we're going to do about this, we can't do that, we can't do this, we can't do that. We are 2 extremes of a scale there. I'm a big picture thinker, he's a fine detail person. So he's a person that will look at the fine detail and be able to tell you, or will investigate, he'll research things, he'll understand how to move things through, which is a great thing to have in a relationship, but clearly also a really excellent opportunity to have around. So this is a really great example, if you like, of big picture thinking and fine detail picture thinking. And if I take you back to my tapestry I've got here, there's very little in the way of fine detail going off here. There are no faces, there is no specific thing. What you've got is outlines. But you get an idea, don't you? You understand what's going off there.
Yeah.
You understand what they're doing, and that they're having a good time. And I think the thing is, it's about understanding how people think and what they do. And I think the important thing for me is, excuse me, you need context. So putting context in makes the difference. So nowadays, when I have a conversation with Judd about what we're going to go and do, obviously I'll give you some context, which is, and you're going to do this, and then this is what we're next. Just remember that, I'll give you a list. Because another great way, another massive thing that we do when we're talking to people, a really fine example is when you're giving someone directions. When you give someone asks you how you get to a place, and you're with them and you can perhaps draw it, are you not in the habit perhaps of starting with a big piece of paper and you've used 3/4 of it to get to Bournemouth? And then you've got like this much left and you're trying to push in that you need to go here and do this. So it's actually about making sure that you get the context right. You know where you're starting from. You need to understand what the beginning is. So telling me how to get here and starting in London is going to be a little unfortunate. You might want to do it from somewhere a bit closer. So in terms of understanding and talking in pictures, and so many of us get images in our head when we speak and when we listen to what people have said, but the important thing to be able to make sure that the message you mean to get across is to make sure you have some context on it. I'm a big picture thinker. I'm very out there, it's got to be very big, but I really, really enjoy, and I've been very lucky for most of my life in work, certainly, and in my relationships, to work with people who are fine detail people. So actually what we've got there is we can paint a big picture, and then we can find the steps to achieve to go along the way. So I welcome anybody's thoughts around what kind of thinker you are, what kind of picture you do, and to take that away into any relationship or any circumstance when you communicate. Thank you.
And call Peter, please, to have next.
Well, that was a wonderful speech. And using props, the carpet or what they call a mural or whatever. And I think a lot of us can sympathise with people being different, and the husband being sort of theoretical, wanting minute detail and what have you, and your bigger picture and idea is something very similar to what I have with my wife. And so, yes, that came across very well. You were animated, you knew your subject, and you used your arms well. So, for myself, I thought that was a very good speech. Can anybody else add to that?
I really like your eye contact, very confidentially, and really like looking into, not just, okay, just catching for a second, but really, stopping on, that's how I felt, you looked at me. And good hand gesture, using a prop, but maybe not slow down. And that's it, but really good speech. Thank you.
I felt super comfortable with you there. Actually, I don't have anything to improve. I loved your body language, a massive improvement in the way you manage your voice, because last time you were going down, I didn't miss anything today, so I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this was you said it last time to someone that you found your place at last. So I think I want to say you're welcome now.
Thank you.
Finally, I mean, you were just so comfortable. You were just into what you were doing, irrespective of the little coughs you had, natural. You had a drink of water. I don't need to excuse you for that. It's part of the speech. And your struggle with the prop because you had to fold it all the time, but then you dealt with every circumstance so professionally. I enjoyed the speech. I went on a journey with you from the beginning as well as to the end, as well as the little advice you gave. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Your best speech ever. I know you can even do better than this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd agree with that completely. Sorry if I just may. I think you looked incredibly comfortable, and more importantly for me, I think Tony's kind of referenced that you look believable. I was in the story. I was, everything you're saying was kind of landing. It looked congruent. It looked authentic, and it looked comfortable. I think the point that Kate made about the pace, I think maybe a little bit of variety in the pace, because it was one pace.
Okay.
And I talk fast, and so I was kind of with you and kind of excited with you, as it were. But I think you could have had more impact by maybe the occasional pause or just slight. Your vocal variety was wonderful, but I just think the pace could have had a bit of more variety to kind of have even more impact. I thought it was brilliant. And as Tony said, best speech you've done so far.
I could echo what everyone else has said, and for me, I think it was brilliant. You came across just as Tony said, and we were there with you. There was a little bit about how you said he took it when you described it, and I think you could have done a little bit of weaving, a little bit of more information there, and that would have made it a little bit meaty. So yeah, that's the wonderful. Thank you.
Bony, meaty.
Thanks.
Okay.
Have we done?
Yes, sir. We have. Introducing our fourth speaker this evening, ladies and gentlemen, from somebody who wasn't so sure about herself last time, talking about herself, and left there very confidently, and she's going to do another speech again this evening, her third speech, and she's Ziomara.
Hello. Today I'm going to talk about online baskets. What online baskets are, or the way I call it, is different source of income. So I was reading about it the last couple of weeks, and most of the people have only one source of income, which is their job. And it's pretty risky at the same time, because if you think about it, what happens if you lose your job, for example, and that's your only income source? Or even worse, what will happen if you lose your health and all of a sudden you don't have money for yourself or your family, and you might not have enough savings? So I've been thinking about it and reading quite a lot. And I found a couple of studies talking about comparing the habits of the rich people and the ones who are not so rich. I don't like to say poor people because I just don't like the word. But one of the things that they found in these studies is that rich people or self-made millionaires have different streams of income. So instead of relying just in one main investment or job or one source, they have different small streams of income. And the best way to do this, for me, in my opinion, is to start trying online opportunities, because we have seen other opportunities before, like maybe investing in housing or cars or things that you will need to have a good amount of money to start investing. But the online opportunities are endless. So online baskets is, for me, a way to start having different sources of income. And you might think, well, I have a good job, I work for an important company, I'm very successful at my job, and what I do, I'm superstar of my company, or I don't know, something like that. But in my experience, something that I had was that 4 years ago, I was working for a big company, I was happy there, I was doing good work, and the company was really successful as well. But all of a sudden, that company was acquired by an international organization, and hundreds of people were made redundant, even though we were good at what we were doing. So that moment, I don't want that to happen again to me. So that's why I kind of feel like even though I have a job and I feel okay with that, I never know if I'm going to lose it for any sort of reason. There are economic crises, the CEO of the company might take a bad decision and we can be out of business in a couple of weeks. We never know. So there are 3 simple steps that you can take to diversify your source of income. The first one is to start a blog or start writing about something that you love. Why I want to emphasize that it should be about something that you love? Well, because this is going to take time, and if you see that as an additional work that you have to do after you do your 9 to 5 or your normal job, then it's going to be too hard. But if, for example, if you love running, you can start a blog about running. If you love taking care of children, you can start a blog about it. So we all love different things in our lives, and we will be more than happy to talk about those. So start a blog about talking about those topics, and then you will build an audience. They will start to come to your website every week, every 2 weeks. And the way to create income from that blog could be the standard one is just to show advertisement there. But there are more interesting ways. For example, you could create a PDF with 5 or 10 icebreakers for people who want to pick up a girl. Or you could have a PDF with 5 tips to get your dream job. Or maybe we have experts in public speaking here, so we could create a PDF how to be better at networking, and then charge a couple of pounds for that. When you start to become recognized for that knowledge, then people are going to ask you for more and more knowledge and give them more guidance. So you can use the same content and deliver that as an online course. So you deliver them chapter 1 in the first week, then chapter 2, 3, 4 weekly, and you charge them per week. Or even if they feel like they need more support and more guidance, you can have one-to-one Skype calls and charge them per hour or per call or a package of 5 hours. So there are endless possibilities that you could do. It's not going to take that much time. Once you start building your reputation and your audience, they are going to keep coming to your website. And I think it's a great way to put your eggs in many baskets instead of all your eggs just in one basket. And at the end, worst case scenario, you might spend some time writing about something that you love. I mean, if you love it, it's fine. Just still enjoy. Worst case scenario, well, you are going to have multiple sources of income, and you will not need to worry about losing your job, as I had that really ugly experience. So I really hope you at least give it a try, start writing about something that you love, and that's it. Thank you.
Stella, please.
Good evening. Basically it was called Get to the Point, the evaluation for today. So I think you got to the point, you got very clear the purpose of your speech. I really like the fact that it was something different and interesting. My 2 main points of improvement are that you were looking a lot somewhere else, especially up to the right. It's completely disconnecting from us. You were in your own world for little periods of time. and that you didn't move at all, or didn't much more. So I remember last week you were really passionate about what you were talking about, so you were here, and then, and today was when the income, you know, so maybe just pay a little bit more attention of that. Maybe it's just some part of speaking about something that you really enjoy, but other than that, yeah, it was very good.
I think that's a great point, because the first time I heard you speak, I actually said you spoke as though you were dancing, because you were all over the place. And then last week it was kind of slightly more subdued, but still very animated, as Stella said. But this week it was even more reserved, and I would have liked to have seen more of, I want to say the real you, but the, you know, just out there you. I thought the content was fantastic. I love the idea and kind of, I mean, the process of kind of creating a portfolio lifestyle, which is, I think, what you're kind of referring to. And so I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Well researched, interesting topic, and delivered really, really well. So yeah, well done.
Thank you. Someone else? Yeah.
Tamara, I have to say it was so wonderful to see that, because when you'd done the speech before, you had acknowledged afterwards how you felt about the speech. What came across was that you had prepared for it, you delivered it, and your structure came across as well. But I was absorbed by it, and you also finished off in sort of saying a personal experience for why you started like that, and you finished off to say, well, that would also, you know, not to go into the personal experience you had, but to, you know, to consider doing something like that. I thought it was a wonderful speech, and the only thing was, as Stella said, a few little bits to sort of look at. But wonderful to see. Really, is it a week? Since 2 weeks?
Since last time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Number
Thank
3
you.
now.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Great smile as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Someone else?
Yep. Briefly, I loved the fact that it was an excellent progression. You took us, it went very smoothly. You progressed with all the options, and I thought some really great ideas there. And I really loved the fact that you are a very natural speaker. And although you weren't moving very much around the stage, you were still doing an awful lot with your hands, which is all very rhythmic, which is an odd word to use about speaking, I think, but it was great how you did that. And I particularly like that you use colloquialisms, that's quite a way of saying it, like all your eggs in one basket and worst case scenario. So it was clear you'd kind of done a lot of work around that. So I particularly liked all of that. I think I would also reflect the same thing about the eye contact. There was times when you were not making complete eye contact.
Thank you.
I just want to add briefly that you did very well, good speech. More often than not, I just want to say this to everyone here, most especially as we progress in our manual, even to me, is that when we are speaking, it's not often, your speech was brilliant, I'm just generalizing here, is that more often than not, we shouldn't worry so much about our performance, the way we went about the speech, because we're not there yet, we are just a work in progress. This is why we come here every week. So by the time we worry too much about our performance, the way our outcome of our speech is, it might inspire or kind of frustrate our effort. However, if we concentrate more about our progress, that, yeah, I've done one today, with time, you'll find your place. You'll find your strength. Nobody will have to tell you. You will just know that, yeah, this is me. This works. Diligence is the mother of good luck. And definitely, you'll find your place very soon. You're quite close.
Thank you. I have a few more things, but I will talk to you later. Yeah.
Speech number 5, please. You just stay there. It's she.
Oh, yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. As you might have noticed, I've been talking a lot about body language and how you have moved tonight. And that's because my speech is called The Body Speaks. Dr. Ekman, in 1967, he shown that there are 7 gestures that are universal. So basically, it doesn't matter if you live here or in Papua New Guinea, it doesn't matter if you are part of an Aborigine, indigenous tribe, and you don't have internet and you are completely isolated. We all make 7 gestures that are exactly the same everywhere. So before I tell you what they are, I would like you to play a little game with you, where I would like you to guess a few ones of them. Because